So this is our final webinar in the series hosted today actually by Jennifer and not Laura from YBA. And as you know, YBA are an affiliate partner with the BAR. Today's session, we will go into more depth within the Google Ads platform on what to look at to improve performance over time. And this session is geared towards people who are already running Google Ads in comparison to some of the previous sessions, which have covered more of an intro into the concepts of Google Ads. So I'm not the expert, but I know somebody who is, and I'm going to actually hand you over to Jen. Over to you then, Jen.
Thanks, Stephen. As Stephen mentioned, this webinar might go into a bit more detail than we have done in previous sessions, but hopefully it's still useful. And as always, if I start off just sharing my screen, we'll just start with a bit of admin. So if you're able to turn your cameras on, that would be great, because I'd love to see all of your faces and kind of gauge a reaction of whether you're kind of keeping up with me or I'm completely losing everyone. And also it would be great if so Chloe is a great example. She's got her name and then the company name. So if you're able to just quickly change your name to add your company name in as well. So you just right click on your name and you should get an option to edit it. That would just be really helpful as well, so we know where you're coming in from. But great. So today our session is going to be about unlocking maximum ROI, so advanced Google Ads strategies for removals. So first up, I'll just give you a bit of info about us. So I know some of you have joined these webinars previously, but if you haven't, just a little bit about YBA. So we are a partner to the BAR, which is obviously why we're here, as Stephen mentioned, but we specialise in Google Ads specifically for both removals clients and storage clients. So we currently manage sort of 15 removals clients in the UK. We've got a good understanding of sort of the industry challenges and the customer behaviour. And we're all about just trying to partner with the BAR to understand more about the industry and then try and translate that into, well, how can we make Google Ads really work for you in that case? So yeah, we're a top 3% Google partner agency. We've won a few awards. But yeah, we're just here really to try and help people within the association really drive more leads for their business. So first of all, why use Google Ads for removals? There's a few different reasons, but there's 4 I'm going to cover off quickly. So the first one is that it helps you get high intent traffic to your website. So it allows you to really target users who are searching for your services. So someone searching for like moving company near me, it might be office relocation near me, people who they're in that mindset, they're ready to actually speak to you and to convert, rather than perhaps, putting out your business in like a marketing newsletter or sending leaflets to houses. That can work for some people, and I know some businesses find that works really well, but you're kind of competing against other people all doing the same thing, rather than letting the customer come to you directly when they're ready to get a removals company. The next thing is just getting seen quickly. So with Google Ads, you can put an ad up, pay the money, and kind of jump above the organic results to get right to the top of the screen. So it can just be a bit quicker to get visibility than doing something like organic search or SEO, search engine optimization, you might have heard of. That can work really well for businesses, but it takes quite a long time to build up. So Google Ads is just a little bit quicker to get to the top of the page. The next thing is you can target people in your local area. So something that we find when we speak to removals companies is if you do a lot of domestic moves, it's better for the business to have people who are located close to your business to do jobs for, because then it's quicker to do the moves, you can get more jobs. So we do focus a lot on kind of the location that you're targeting within Google Ads. And the last thing is just that it's measurable. So unlike, putting an ad on the local radio, you don't know how many people have sort of listened to that ad and how many people have actually come and booked a service because of that. Whereas with Google Ads, we can actually see who clicked on your ad, from that, who actually made a call to the business or sent you an email. So we can kind of tie that all back to how much money you're actually spending. Having said that, Google Ads is getting more competitive. So you might have noticed, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you have seen Anyvan kind of popping up in the search results. And I know they're not strictly kind of removals, they're more of a man with a van outfit, but they are kind of spending a lot of money trying to sort of dominate the Google search results, and especially this bit at the top, the Google guarantee. But feedback we're getting from a lot of clients that we speak to is that often those Google guarantee results might be firms in the wrong area. They're more sort of man with a van, customers looking for like a quick, I want to move my sofa down the road, rather than actually wanting to move a 3-bedroom house. They've got the insurance to cover it and they've got that quality of service they need. So what we focus on is those ads that are just below. So where you've got the sponsored, I mean, you can see Anyvan appearing there as well. But that's kind of where we're trying to get our clients to appear. And you can see on the right-hand side, this is just the cost per clicks we're seeing from our removals clients over the course of the year. So they were around sort of £3 for a click to the website in January, and we have seen that gradually increase as we've gone throughout the year. So it's just a trend we like to keep an eye on. Generally, you do tend to see, as I'm sure you're all aware, with removals that the first sort of 3 months of the year tends to be quieter. However, in 2025, obviously you've got the impact of the changes to stamp duty coming. They're not going to come into force until April 2025. So we may not see that slow down this year. You might actually see that competition stay high, and hopefully more house moves and more business for you guys. And then perhaps we'll see in April that start to drop. But it's very much sort of to be seen. Obviously, we can't know for sure. But based on that information, how can we use Google Ads to maximize your return on investment? So we know it's getting more expensive. We know there's more competition, but how can we kind of maximize what we do have to get you the most return on your money? So there's 2 key questions that we need to start with to even be able to understand what the return on investment is. So these are things we always speak to at the very start of any conversation we have with a company, which is firstly, what is the lifetime value of a customer? So this is always going to be an average. It's always going to be different for every single job. But it's really important for us to understand, if someone does make an inquiry, what is the actual value of a job to your business? Lots of people don't actually know the answer to that question. So as an industry average from people we speak to, we tend to take a lifetime value of around sort of £1,000 as an average. And the second thing that we always ask is, if 10 customers inquire, how many actually book a job on average? Again, it's not going to be perfect. It's always going to be an average. But it's really helpful for us to understand from a Google Ads perspective, but also just for you from your business perspective. These are really important numbers that hopefully you know, or if you don't know, definitely start thinking about them and trying to get that data in for the company. So again, typically what we see from clients in the sort of removals industry is around 20% conversion rate. So if 10 customers inquire, around 2 will go on to book a job. Again, it's an average. Some customers will be higher, some customers will be lower. It will depend on time of year and the type of jobs being booked, but just helps to give you an idea of what we tend to see in the industry. So once you've got that understanding, what do you need to do with Google Ads? So the first thing is always to make sure your tracking is set up correctly. The amount of times we take on accounts and we see the tracking either doesn't exist at all, or it's set up, but it's tracking the wrong things. So here, what I'm talking about is, what is an action that a user takes that is really valuable to your business? So it's probably going to be someone phoning you up. It might be someone requesting a quote. It might be someone leaving you a WhatsApp message or sending you an email. But whatever those actions are that are important to the business and the start of that customer sort of coming in, that's what we want to make sure we're tracking. Because if we're not tracking it, it's like any sport. Laura always says, if you're watching a sport and you don't know the score, how do you know who's winning? How do you know what's good or bad? Without that conversion tracking in place, we're just blind and we don't know what is working or not working. So that's always the first thing that has to be done. It has to be set up. The next thing is around keyword strategy. And if you've attended a couple of these with us, it's always going to be a key thing in Google Ads. So by keyword strategy, I mean, for what terms do you want an ad to appear? So when someone types something into Google, what is the actual keyword that you want to bid on and make sure you're showing an ad for? So typically for removals, we'll see there's kind of three main groups of keywords that we look at. So the first one will be near me terms. So it'll be targeted to your local area. So let's say you're sort of in Oxford. It might be, removal company near me, move my 3-bed house near me, movers near me, targeted to your kind of very specific local area. And then you might get location-based terms. So that'll be, removal company Oxford, removal company, I don't know where's near Oxford. I'm not sure why I picked that as an example, but it might be outskirts of Oxford or whatever it is. But having that sort of wider targeting, but with the location term within that sort of phrase. So people are looking in the areas that you're servicing. And if you're a large removals company, you might actually be servicing the whole of the UK or, quite a wide sort of area. There might be a few different location terms that you want to target in there. And the third group that we see is brand terms. So, depending on your sort of local brand recognition and depending on if you do anything else externally for your website, you might find that bidding in your brand term. So for example, like Pickfords would be a brand term. If you're that company, you might want to have a campaign where if someone is searching for Pickfords, you always show an ad. It's not something you have to do. Some people say, if they know my brand, they're going to come to me anyway. I don't want to spend money on it. And if you have really good SEO and you've got a great website, you may not need to run it. But we normally suggest starting with brand, seeing if you've got much competition on those terms, because until you're running an ad, you won't be able to tell if there's someone else bidding on your terms. And then if you want to turn it off and test not running it, that's definitely something it's worth trying to see if you can save money that way. The next thing on keywords is the match types. There's 3 different match types you can use. There's exact match, there's phrase match, and there's broad match. And probably as you'd expect, exact match is kind of targeting. So if I search for removals near me and I put that as a keyword in exact match, I should only match to someone who types in on Google removals near me. If you go to phrase match, and we had the keyword removals near me in phrase match, it means you can have that phrase and also add words in the beginning and the end. So it might be 3-bed house removals near me, and that removals near me term will pick that whole sentence up. And then if we go to broad match, we're getting much, much wider. So we've seen clients who are bidding on the term removals in broad match, and it will pull in things like tattoo removal, asbestos removal. So you do have to be really, really careful using those broader types. They can help to bring you in more traffic to your website, but you need to really be careful about what that quality of traffic is if you're running broad match. And if any of you are setting up your own campaigns on Google, do be aware that the default match type is broad. So just check if you're in the accounts yourself and you're doing it all yourself, you might be running broad match and sort of not realizing there's these 3 different ones. So definitely check that and just check what's coming through. And the next slide will show you how to do that. And the final thing on keywords, don't forget you can add negatives. So if you're seeing traffic come through for tattoo removal and you're like, that's nothing to do with my business, I definitely don't want to spend money on that, you can add these terms in as negative terms, and that will tell Google, I want to block anyone who searches this term from showing my ad. So that's definitely something you should all be doing. And as an agency, because we work with a lot of removals clients, we have a sort of agency level negative list where we have all those terms already put in, and we just whack that onto the back of every removals account. So like tattoo, asbestos, wart removal, anything that's kind of semi-related to removing, but definitely not part of your business, you want to add as a negative. So if any of you are going into the Google Ads account, so this is kind of what it looks like. And if you go into your Google Ads account, if you go into campaigns, insights and reports and search terms, you'll actually be able to see for your specific campaign or ad group, what are the sort of search terms that my ad showed for? So this is slightly different to your keywords. So your keywords are the terms you want to actively choose to bid on. The search term is what someone actually typed into Google to make your ad show. So you can see a list of these. You can see what have you actually spent on those terms over the last, this is 90 days, but you can change the date range. You can see how many conversions you've had. What's that cost per conversion? And if you click on these little tick boxes, I can't, well, it's just a screenshot, but if I ticked, I'd get this little button at the top that says edit, and you can choose basically to either, you can exclude those terms if they're not relevant. So this one, removals office Glasgow, maybe we're not in that location, or that's not something we want to appear for. So we can see that one's excluded. So I'm telling Google I don't want to show for this search term. Or you can add keywords if they are relevant to your business. So just something to be aware of. And this is a good way of kind of basically trying to stop wasting spend over a longer period of time. So another thing that we can look at is location targeting. So where are your customers based and how far are you actually willing to travel to go and complete a removals job? And as I said earlier, that's going to be varied from business to business. Some people are going to be happy to go all across the UK. Some aren't. So it just depends where you want to show. But you can see here, we can actually actively target locations and we can also actively sort of negate locations as well. So those are the ones in red. And if I go to the next slide, again, this is getting a bit more technical, but this is sort of what it looks like in the back end of the Google Ads account. So you basically go into your campaign settings and you can enter in a location. So in this one, we've got a radius around London. And then we're excluding these locations that are other areas of the UK, basically, that aren't London, because we just, for this particular client, we just don't want to spend money on those locations that are too far away. They want to keep their removals business really close to where they're located. And the reason that we add these other negative locations is, if you see on the left-hand side, you used to be able to just target people in a location, but as Google grows and gets more sophisticated, it's changed the targeting options. So it's now you only get the option of people in or regularly in your included locations, or people in, regularly in, or who've shown interest in your included locations. And the default is this top one. We always suggest doing this bottom one because people interested in your locations, you might have someone in India who's made a search that contains London, and Google's going to suddenly see them as interested in your location. And actually, that's not the audience at all that you want to reach. So just little things like this can be really, really important in the back end of Google Ads to save you money and stop you, spending on these irrelevant locations. Or actually, you don't want to book a job in Derbyshire if you're in London. Just negate it, save yourself some money. Another thing that we can do, and again, this is getting a bit technical and in the back end, but if any of you are in the accounts, something that we can also do is something called ad scheduling. So again, you can find this on the left-hand side. If you go into campaigns, and there'll be a section you'll need to click into one, go into assets, and there'll be something called ad scheduling. And it basically allows you to select certain times of day where you want to choose to show your ads versus not show your ads, sorry. So with this client, you can see the blue is when we're showing ads and the grey is when the ads are off. So we're actually only showing ads Monday to Thursday, 9 till 6, and on Fridays, 9 till 5. And that's basically because for this client, that's where their office hours are. And that's when someone's actually going to be able to pick up that phone if someone rings from an ad. So this just makes sense for that business. What's the point in showing your ad and having someone ring up if you can't answer the phone? So things like this can also be done, again, just to try and save you money. Don't sort of waste any budget on times of day when you can't actually get back to your customers. I will caveat that this is on the face of it, this seems like a great thing to do, but it's always worth testing, because for some clients, we actually find, they've got a really good answer phone system, and in the morning, someone gets back to them and they can show ads at all times of day. So it's something to definitely test and see what works best for your business. But it's something that we found works for this particular client. So we've continued running that, and we just spend money on the time their business is open. The next thing I was going to quickly touch on is bid strategies. So if you've attended any of these webinars, or if you get a call from a Google rep, or you work with anyone else on Google Ads, you might hear the terms sort of bid strategy, automated bidding, and those types of things thrown around. So you can go into your account and check in the campaigns view. If you add a column, which you can do by clicking on this little columns icon for bid strategy type, you should be able to see by campaign what type of bid strategy you're running. So there's a couple of different ones. So here you can see we've got 3 that are using maximize conversions with a target CPA, and that just means a target cost per acquisition. And there's 3 on manual bidding. So for removals specifically, what we'd probably suggest, ideally what bid strategy you want to use is maximize conversions, or maximize conversions with the target cost per acquisition. The caveats to this are, these only work if you've got your conversion tracking set up and that is working properly. If we don't know what a conversion is, we can't then try and tell Google that's what we want to push spend for and optimize for. You also must have enough data coming through the account to run some of these. So this target with a cost per acquisition, you must have 15 conversions over a 30-day period for this to work effectively. So if you don't have enough data coming through, you don't want to use this one yet. We only want to use that when we know we've got conversions coming through and we've got that threshold hit. If we don't have that threshold, but we've got conversions working, we can move back one and just do maximize conversions without a target. That's probably the second best option. If we don't have any conversion tracking, you probably either want to use manual bidding. So sometimes we'll use manual if it's a brand new campaign and there's no historic data. We might just want to set the keyword bids ourselves. If you use manual bidding, that means Google's not sort of making any changes on your behalf. You're just putting in a bid for a keyword and it will try and stick to that. Or you can use maximize clicks, which is a type of automated bidding and is telling Google, I want this campaign to aim to just get more traffic to my website. So again, yeah, that's okay, but the gold standard and what we want to tell Google to do is get you more inquiries. And for Google, that's called a conversion. So we want to try and focus on those conversion-based bid strategies. And then if you are running bid strategies and you're kind of familiar with what you're running and why, you can click onto that. If you sort of click where it's got the highlighted in blue, it will bring up what's called a bid strategy report, and it will just give you a bit of extra information. So it will say here at the top, strategy status. So this one just says active, but if there's any issues with it, it will kind of flag in red here, and it will give you a bit of information. It might say like limited by budget or limited by bid. It'll give you some indication of, the times of days that are working best and the devices that are working best. And it'll also be able to show you sort of performance over time, so how much you've spent, how many conversions, and what the sort of cost per acquisition is. So if you've got someone technical working in the background, that's something they should be kind of looking at on a regular basis, or I guess a monthly basis at least, and just checking how are we doing versus the target that we've put in the bid strategy. Do we need to make any changes? I mean, there's probably a load of other things I could cover, but we've only got half an hour, and I'm probably potentially about to run over time anyway. But those are just a few things that you can look at. There's so many things in Google Ads. I mean, it's probably endless, but at least as like a starting point, there's a few main things that we'd recommend sort of looking at to try and maximize your ROI. The first one is definitely making sure that you've got your conversion tracking set up, so you know what's working and what isn't. Checking your keyword strategy. So both the keywords you're bidding on, which ones are working, have you got any in there that are just spending money and not converting? Add them as negatives. You don't necessarily have to bid on everything that comes through. Check your location targeting. So are you targeting people in or interested in your area, or just the ones in that tight local area? Have you got negated locations on there? Check the bid strategies. So tweaking the targets and the campaign budgets, checking what times of day you're bidding on. Is it all times of day or just when your business is open? Can you test anything? And the key thing combined with all of this is really just getting someone to check in on it regularly and check that performance over time. So, you know, it's very tempting to think, oh yeah, I've spent a few hours setting that up, I can leave it now and just let it run. But it does need sort of this constant attention to improve things over time. And then how does that relate to ROI? It's really, really important to always be relating it back to your business's bottom line, because what we can see in Google Ads is, for this amount of spend, how many inquiries have we driven to the business? But if we don't know what is an inquiry worth to your business, or how many people who inquire go on to book a job, it's really hard to know, is that money actually driving good investment for your business? And that's ultimately what you care about. So being able to kind of collaborate with clients and, have that conversation together and understand, okay, that job was £2,000, but actually we had to pay this much for vans, we had to pay this much for petrol, etc., this much for our costs. What is the actual return on that investment for the business is something that's kind of like the gold standard where we want to get to, not just saying, yeah, spend this on Google Ads, get these inquiries. It's about, does it actually work for your business? A couple of minutes. So I'll just go over a couple of case studies. So one is from Clarks of Amersham. So I'm sure some of you in the call know Jess, but we've been working with Clarks of Amersham for, I think, about 6 months to a year now. And they'd been kind of sending out a lot of local letters in the area, but weren't necessarily reaching people who needed their services right now. So we started testing Google Ads for them. So we built out a new campaign targeting the local area. We looked at those relevant keywords, looked at building out landing pages for them, and new ads. And essentially, they've just seen good results really from running the campaign. So in the last, I think this is 30 days, they've seen a 30% increase in conversion rate, cost per lead below £25, and they're averaging about 20 leads per month. So that we are seeing it does work for some removals businesses. And the next thing I just wanted to share was a bit of data really to give you an idea. If you are running Google Ads, we do see quite a variance in that cost per click for different areas around the UK. So I've just picked out a couple to give you an idea of the types of budgets people are spending on Google, the types of cost it is to actually get people to click on an ad to your website, and the number of inquiries that are coming through. Because it's often, if you're only running your own business, you kind of think, I don't know if it's working well or not, and I don't really know how we sort of place compared to anyone else. So it's going to be different for every business. It's going to vary by location. It's going to vary by the types of campaign you run, whether you run a lot of brand activity, whether you're focused on generics, but it just gives you some sort of indication of the variance that we do see on the platform. So yeah, I think I'm not too bad for time, about on time, but if you are running Google Ads and it is something that you want help with, please come and speak to us. You can either scan this code or go to getmoreleads.ybappc.co.uk. We work with quite a few members of the BAR, and we always start by sort of doing a free Google Ads account audit, making suggestions of things we can improve, or tell you how you've sort of got missed opportunities, or how you can waste less spend and drive more inquiries for your business. So if that is anything you're interested, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to do a free review for you. Perfect. And any questions? I'm not sure if there's been anything put into the chat as we've gone through, but if anyone does have any questions, please do speak up. I'm happy to answer anything. Oh, Vicky, I think you're on mute.
Oh, sorry, yeah. So I was just going to ask, you talked about looking through the search terms
Yeah.
and adding them. So my just question is, if you're already showing for that search term with the keywords you've got, why would you add it in? So I don't know if I'm being a bit thick. I'm not understanding.
No, not being thick at all. It's a good question. So it's just basically you can get slightly cheaper cost per clicks by selecting the exact word and adding that as a keyword. So depending on, if I go back to that example, maybe that's more helpful actually. Oh, no, it's not because it doesn't have it in here. Basically, what you can do in this report is you can add a column for search term, and you can also add a column for keyword, and it will tell you what keyword did that trigger to that search term. And if those two are the same, you're absolutely right. You don't need to bother adding it. If they're slightly different, you can normally get a cheaper cost per click by adding that slightly different term and specifically going after that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. And great question, so thank you. Cool. Was there any more for any more? Okay, great. Well, yeah, I think that's everything from us today. I know Stephen's going to wrap up, but yeah, I'll hand back over to Stephen.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jen. I thought that was very informative. There's some very good hints and tips in there for those who are more familiar with the Google Ads. So yeah, very helpful, greatly appreciated. And this is your first time running a session solo, is it not, with us?
Yeah, definitely.
So well done. Thank you for that. So this is the last session of 2024. And in 2025, Jen and Laura and Megan will be going to every quarter. So next year we will see you back in March or thereabouts. So all I'm going to say is thank you all, everybody, for your participation, and we will see you again in March next year. So thank you for now. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.